be hosting this evening's event with my esteemed colleagues here, my panel, who I'll introduce you to in a moment. So we have a wonderful panel and some wonderful questions lined up, all focused on the Postgraduate Certificate in Innovation and Enterprise Development, which we will be starting in January in 2022. So it's all about the course tonight, what it's about, is it right for you, what to expect on the course, and importantly, Jane will be talking about the practicalities of how to apply. So a very practical element in tonight's session as well. So our aim, what's our goal for this evening? So I guess the aim is that whatever your role or industry or career stage or age, that you learn something about the course, so that there'll be a takeaway in how the course might benefit you. And that could be, you know, to ignite a new idea, it could be a fresh perspective, even a new strategy or vision. So it's really how you can apply the course to be more successful in your business or in your career, or I guess in any aspect of your life. Jill, would you say that people want to be more successful in?
Absolutely.
So just to give you an idea then of the format for tonight, I have a couple of questions here. They're commonly asked questions and important questions, and that we get all the time from students, so I'll be putting them to the panelists. So in a few moments, I'm going to let the panel introduce themselves, and they can briefly talk about their background and their involvement in the course to date. I'm going to then, as I said, ask some questions and, you know, hopefully probe some of the areas to focus on in both applying and taking part on the course. And then we'll open up the floor to you guys. So it'll give you an opportunity to ask any specific questions that you've been thinking about, or anything that we haven't answered, or even something that occurs to you, you know, during the course of the evening. We'll finish up then at 7:15 as planned. I'll stay online for a little while if there's any more questions, and if there's any that we don't get to, myself and Jane can follow up online after that or by email. So keep the questions coming. If you have questions, we're very happy to take them. So if that all sounds good, will we get started? Yes, I'm going to do the panel introductions now. So I might start with you, Jill, if you'd like to just introduce yourself and your involvement in the course.
Thanks a million.
Which is key.
Thank you very much, Rosemary. Hi, everyone. My name is Gillian Roddy, and I am one of the program managers here at Tangent. So the PG Cert in Innovation and Enterprise Development holds a very special place in my heart because it was the very first course that I was involved in when I joined Tangent, and I was part of the rollout of the very first PG Cert in Innovation and Enterprise Development. And we ran that one in Galway, Limerick, and Dublin. So this course, right from the very beginning, has had a very core regional aspect to it, and that makes it very, very special because we have the opportunity to reach out to lots of different amazing people all around the country. So I'm now involved in sort of the back end development of our courses and the design and some of the delivery of them. So one of the things that we try and do here in Tangent is really practice what we preach, and we take a very innovative and iterative approach to our courses. So it means that part of my role is to listen to you as potential students and students when you're on the course, to make sure that the participation, the experience that you have as students is the best that we can potentially offer. So I'm thrilled to be here and really excited to answer some of your questions.
Thank you, Jill. And I think Jill has given us a little bit of insight into what we might be talking about later on, which is great. I'm going to introduce you next to Jane.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jane Flanagan, and I am the Student Recruitment Officer here at Tangent. And my job really is to help you guys along with your applications, to answer any questions you may have, whether that be, you know, what documents to upload, you know, do I need to be an entrepreneur to join this course, or, you know, is this the right course for me? So really, I'm here as a support during that application process, and to make sure that you get your application uploaded in good time, and that it is the best application that reflects you and where you are and where you want to go. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you, Jane. And I know some of you will already have talked to Jane, and if you haven't, we'll be giving out her details later on. Jane will be there to answer any of your queries that you have following on the session. I'd like to introduce a very special welcome to Shane Ormsby. Shane is one of our recent graduates from the course, and the voice of the student, if you like, from the other side. And Shane, do you want to introduce yourself briefly? Thanks.
Hello, everybody. Shane Ormsby is my name. I'm a recent graduate, as Rosemary said there. So I started the program in September 2020 and just finished in June 2021. So I'm here this evening to answer any questions that you might have on any aspect of the program, and I'm happy to provide you with my perspective of kind of the array of things really that I learned on the program. So happy to take any questions at any stage during the evening.
Great, thanks, Shane. So we might kick off, and as I said, I have a couple of questions here that we get asked, all the time from the students. But if you do have questions, if something does occur to you during the course of the evening, just pop them into the chat. I'm very happy to take them. I'm going to start with you, Jill, just to pick up on something that you mentioned earlier. So Tangent has designed and developed, you were a key part of that, this very innovative postgraduate certificate in innovation and enterprise development. So I suppose the question is, who is the course for? Who should apply? So anyone who's out there at the moment thinking, is this course for me? What would you say?
The short answer is yes. Is it for the people who are watching? One of the things that we really work very hard at here in Tangent is the notion and the idea that we want to create courses that are accessible to a very diverse cohort of students. And one of the things that we try and impress on people is that the experience that you have, that you're bringing to the table, is just as important as the knowledge and the skills that we're going to help you to develop. So it's not that this course is designed with any one particular person in mind. There would be a trend towards people who are currently in employment because it's a part-time evening course and a weekend course. But that doesn't mean that it's only for people who are in employment. Obviously, with the Springboard model, it's free for those who are unemployed, which is an incredibly strong trait of the course. But it's for any kind of background, somebody's coming from any sector. What I would say, though, is that you do need to be a little bit curious to be on these courses. So if you're somebody who has a naturally curious mindset, if you're somebody who's looking for a little bit more out of your education experience, and I think that word experience is very, very important, because our courses are very hands-on. We do use something called experiential learning, which means that you learn by doing. We have a lot of very hands-on workshop style group work and individual work. So you learn as you're doing in class and in your assessments. Anybody who might have, toyed with the idea of a startup during lockdown, or they found over the last couple of years that they want to try something different, or that you want to develop your mindset and you want to try something different. One of the beautiful things about the courses that we run is that it speaks to a very broad range of skills. Sometimes you hear them referred to as soft skills, and actually I think that does them a disservice, because really when we're talking about soft skills, what we're talking about is those core transversal skills: communication, collaboration, teamwork, the ability to think on your feet, to be agile, to be curious, to be creative, to be innovative. And those are all the skills that really there's very few people in the working world who don't need to develop those skills. So I think that's my...
Yes, I think it's for everybody.
It is for everybody.
It's a short answer, but that's great. It's great insight, Jill. And I think one of the things we heard earlier, we were talking about, is being curious, which I just hear a lot about at the moment, that ability just to probe and be curious and to seek answers, I guess, to problems, which is great. Jill, I'm going to stick with you for a moment. If you could just tell us, so the students are going to study 3 modules.
That's right.
Even very briefly, and you have touched on some of the content there where you're talking about the transversal skills, but maybe just a little bit outline maybe some of the topics students will cover within those modules.
Sure, absolutely. So as you said, Rosemary, there's 3 modules and they're all equally weighted. The first module is innovation and creativity, which is this really wonderful deep dive into frameworks and methodologies around creative thinking, critical thinking, innovative thinking. And it's a really, really rich module to start on your journey with us, because it really challenges your mindset and it really encourages people to think about what a problem is. We live in this very solution-oriented world. How many times have we gone to a boss or to a colleague and said, I have an issue? And we hear, don't bring me a problem, bring me a solution. And so we're very focused on those solutions. What we're finding is that in an innovation space is that sometimes we have a tendency to rush a little bit too quickly towards the solution. And what we're seeing is that when you spend a little bit more time in that problem space, that's when the really innovative thinking happens. So that first module is all about getting students used to that problem space and digging into it and user-centered design and who are the people involved and lots of other really rich questions. From there, you'll move into the second module, which is opportunity generation and recognition, which is really all about learning to see opportunity everywhere around you. So this is when it starts getting into a little bit more of the nitty-gritty of business skills. Now, I hesitate to use that word too much because this is not a business focused course per se, but there are business elements in it. From there, then it moves into module 3, which is enterprise development, which is getting, again, a little bit more nitty gritty into the nuts and bolts of building a business. So there is a very strong core entrepreneurship theme in it. However, I would say that this course is also really relevant for people who are currently working in industry, but feel that they might want to lean towards entrepreneurship. So I think that having an understanding of how a business is built, again, it transfers over to other elements because, you know, we encourage you to look at it as the holistic view of building a business. It's not just spreadsheets or budgets, etc. It's about taking those things into consideration when you're building something bigger.
Oh, wonderful, Jill. That's a great overview. I might just move to Shane following on from that. Can you tell us a little bit about why and how you choose the course and maybe any advice to somebody who's thinking of registering for the programme?
Yeah, so I suppose I would have joined the course in September 2020, as I say. At that stage, I would have been running a business myself, so it would be reasonably unusual, I would have think, based on the background of some of the candidates that were on there, for about 15 years, and I'd scaled that business up and sold it. So I probably, for the first time in my life, actually had an opportunity to kind of reflect, I suppose. So, you know, my motivations were kind of to reskill, to reflect, to get a wider perspective. And just very much kind of reconnect, I suppose, with the the startup ecosystem within Dublin and within Ireland. So I had a plan to start up another business, and I suppose in some respects I was able to leverage the course then to put me through the discipline of many of the things that Gillian just talked about there, making sure that I really was solving a real problem and not just a kind of a biased one that I thought, hey, isn't this a brilliant idea? So that was one of the, so I suppose I came from the point of view that it was an opportunity to reflect, broaden my perspectives, you know, get fresh thinking, fresh ideas, and that's very much what I got out of it as well. So it was really good.
Great. And if I'm not putting you in the spot, Shane, can you tell us what some of the aspects of the course you enjoyed the most?
Well, the most enjoyable part was probably the storytelling, right? So I suppose in terms of what I got out of the program, you know, it's innovation and enterprise development. So there's kind of a big hint in the name there. So the first kind of almost 50% of the course really in my mind is kind of dedicated to that concept of creativity, innovation, design thinking, ideation. And that was very new to me. You know, as I said, I started up a business almost 20 years ago. And at that stage, you wrote a business plan. You went to the banks, you got money, and you started making the product straight away. And you found out then 12 months later that actually nobody wanted the product. All your money was gone. And by the way, you had no money left. Very much the modern thinking right now is this real iterative kind of lean business model canvas, which was brand new to me, and fundamentally kind of re-engineered kind of how I thought about the next business I was getting into. So that was the first thing. The second part of the course then could probably be described then as kind of enterprise development, but it really comprised of probably 15 to 20 different kind of content experts in all sorts of areas, from, as I say, kind of pitch development to creativity to innovation to digital marketing to funding, raising capital, you know, interacting with vendors, you know, help around kind of sports and that kind of startup ecosystem that's very rich in Ireland. So just trying to get that perspective was enormous. The most enjoyable part I enjoyed was the storytelling and you know, this concept of kind of presentation and trying to engage the audience and try to create empathy with them so that you could actually get it across. And I found that really, really useful, to be honest.
Wonderful, thanks, Shane. And I just want to touch on an aspect, some of the hard work in the course, lest the participants think it's all good fun, which it is, lots of enjoyable stuff in there. Jill, one of the questions we get asked all the time is around exams. So there's no exams on the programme. I can hear a collective sigh of relief, but obviously students do need assessment. So can you tell us what students could expect in terms of assessment on the course?
Absolutely. So the one thing I will say, this is a very, very practical course. Everything that we do on the course really has a real world application in mind. And really, when you think of that, there's no real room for exams because it doesn't reflect what we do in real life. But instead, what we do is we do a series of continuous assessments. So they are academic in nature, which means that they will require a significant amount of student input. But one thing I would say is that they can, because what we do on these courses is quite different perhaps to what you do on a daily basis, and even what you might find your memories of academic learning was. One of the biggest hurdles we find is people just sort of getting into the mindset needed for doing them, but that we are here to support you in order to do that. And the contributors, the lecturers that we work with on the course are wonderful for supporting our students. So it's a variety of different continuous assessments. We can have group projects, oral presentations. We do a lot of reflective work because it's experiential learning. Part of that growth journey that you're going to be on is recognizing how you're learning as you're learning. So all of these continuous assessments, you know, that they're all weighted differently. So it's a compilation of assessments, which means that the work is spread out, but it means that there isn't lots and lots of pressure on any one individual piece of work. So work consistently and work hard and you'll be fine.
Great, thank you, Jill. And I know we have a follow-up question in terms of students or applicants who are working, so we'll come to that in a little bit. It's one of the ones we get asked a lot. So we might just change track for a little bit to the practicalities of applying, Jane, so over to you. But just to those listening in, if you have any questions about the content or the assessments or what you'll actually be learning in the course, absolutely pop them into the chat, or we can follow up an email with you. So in very real terms, Jane, I know there's a closing date coming up, and that's all important date, the 25th of November, for anybody who doesn't have it. That's the last date for which applicants can apply to do this course. And briefly, Jane, how do students apply and what information do they need?
Sure. So all applications must come through the Springboard website at springboardcourses.ie. And it's quite a lengthy application, so I really would encourage anybody looking to apply to this course to start gathering those documents now. So there's 7 documents in total, and they must be uploaded to springboardcourses.ie before an application is complete, and we only assess completed applications. So you need a CV, a statement of interest, a transcript to show that you have a level 8 honours degree, if you do have one, 2 written references, and then you need proof of eligibility for Springboard funding. And if you're in employment, then proof of residency as well. So the exact documents are all detailed on the Springboard website, but if you have any questions around, like, is this the right document or is that, really just come to me on springboard@tcd.ie. We'll pop my mobile number in the chat in a little bit as well towards the end of the call. But also if you wanted to log on to the Tangent website, that's tcd.ie/tangent. On the course page, on the Innovation and Enterprise Development page, there's a live chat function, and that connects you directly to me. So really just ask questions, between business hours 9 to 5:30 each day, and I can answer there as well. But those 7 documents are all needed. So I would encourage you to start asking for the references now and the transcript now, because sometimes applicants can be waiting a while for those to come in. And you really don't want your application to go unassessed simply because you were late getting a document or 2 in. So really do start that process early on if you are interested in applying.
Thanks, Jane. And as Jane said, we will pop all of that information and how to contact us into the chat. I think the important points out of that, Jane, I'm gathering is the references and the transcript of results. I guess they're the important documents that you won't have control over, if you like, because you're waiting on somebody else to supply them. And we do see students who are coming up to the last date and they don't have those, and their application can go unassessed because of that, which,
and it's so disappointing because
Yeah.
people are putting real time and effort into their application, and if it's something like that that stops it being assessed, you know, because we can get massively oversubscribed in the days coming up to a closing date. So we really do try to encourage people to start that application early. Also, it gives us a chance to talk to you about your documents, to encourage you on how to make your application as good as it can possibly be, whereas we're not given the time to do that if it's done at the last moment.
great advice there. So I guess as early as possible, you know, so if you are thinking about applying for the course, even to start the application, you know, as soon as you can. That's great advice, Jane. Thank you. Can you talk to us a little bit just about the fees?
Sure. So Jill touched on it earlier on. If you're in employment, you can absolutely apply for this course, and then your document would be like a recent pay slip to show that you're in employment. If you're successful then in your application, you pay 10% of the course fees, which is only €300, and that payment is made on a registration with Trinity College when you're registering for the course after being made successful on Springboard. If you are unemployed and you show us a document that proves at that status, like social welfare payment receipt, or maybe you sign a returner's declaration form, then the course is absolutely free. So I mean, it's amazing to have these courses available from Springboard, totally funded, or at least 90% funded for those eligible applicants.
Yes, thank you, Jane. And this won't apply to everybody, but it is a question we get asked a lot. So I don't have a degree, you know, can I still apply for the course? So the minimum entry requirement, it is a level 9 postgraduate certificate. So the minimum entry requirement is a level 8 degree. But for potential applicants who don't hold that degree, what can they do?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have applications from RPL candidates, and that's a recognition of prior learning. So that means that if you have anything below a level 8, you can still apply. You should detail your continuous professional development, your experience, and any qualifications you may have on your CV and on your statement. You can speak about them also. If you have something like a level 7 or certificates in this, that, or the other, there's no harm in uploading them, because that just again supports your application and shows us what it is you have been doing, you know, that recognition of prior learning. I would encourage though anybody that is applying as an RPL candidate to do get your application in early on, because it does take us a little while longer to process RPL applications. So just to try to get on that and get all those documents uploaded as soon as possible, but definitely still eligible to apply without that level 8.
Great. So the message I'm hearing again is early application.
Yes.
As early as you can, so really get starting, work on the application. Super. I'm not quite sure who this question is for, so we all might have something to say on it. Jill, I might start with you.
Sure.
We do get this all the time. So I'm working full time.
Yeah.
Will I still be able to complete the course? And I'm just thinking Shane may have something to add to this, so I might bring you in on this, Shane, after we get the student perspective as well.
So yes, again, is the short answer. You know, it is a part-time course designed with professional people as one of the cohorts in mind. There is going to be work required in order to complete assessments. But as I said before, it's a case of slow and steady. We encourage people not to leave all of their assignments until a few days before the submission date. The assignments are designed with a slow and steady approach in mind. So there's at the beginning of the course, there's more group work than individual work, and then that tapers down into more individual work. The course has been designed in such a way that, you know, we've actively measured out what the effort hours are. So it is absolutely very doable, but it's doable in a slow and steady, you know, keep on top of us, which I think is probably general advice for life as much as anything else. Get everything in, get your applications in early, and then slow and steady on the course. But it is very, very doable. But this is a postgraduate course. It is a level 9. It is an accredited level 9 course. So there is an expectation of effort and work done. So, you know, we need people to meet us in the middle.
And a core element, I guess, is independent learning there.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Again, part of that postgraduate element is the expectation that people will work for on their own and off their own bat, that it's not a nice phrase, but it's not a spoon-feedy kind of course. It's a postgraduate course from Trinity College. And I think that's perhaps something that might come up. This is a fully registered course for Trinity. So you are given all the same student rights as any of our other students. It's a part-time course, but you're still fully registered. Springboard supported, but you're still fully registered. So it's Trinity qualification.
Great, thanks, Jill. Shane, I don't know if you want to come in on that one.
Yeah, I mean, one of the notes I'd written down actually before I tuned in was that I just felt that the course was this really good balance between kind of the input that you need to get and the output that you get from it. So I think that's just kudos to the people that designed it. So I think it's a very balanced course from a workload perspective, and well designed from in terms of, you know, trying to impart obviously knowledge and that you get something out of it. I suppose the only other thing that I'd add to what I said earlier is that obviously some of it are a good chunk of the assessments are obviously team-based, and don't underestimate the kind of positive chemistry that's in the class, you know, so everybody's in the same boat. So one of the real positives that I got as well was obviously interacting with, you know, the peer-to-peer learning, and it's a very diverse group that are on the course. So you actually get an enormous amount of kind of fresh thinking and perspective from those as well. And it's what, you know, you get a lot of learning out of that, and everybody's together. And just, you know, while there's pressure to get a presentation together for a particular night or a pitch or a project or whatever it is, there's a really good collegiate atmosphere in the class as well to kind of help you out if there's an area that you know, you're particularly struggling on. So that's the first thing. And then I suppose the other thing is, I've been in a situation as well then where I've been pitching for things, and obviously for the first time I've actually had that postgraduate cert from Trinity on it. And I suppose I entered without thinking that through, but actually I've been very pleasantly surprised by how well respected, or the kudos that I've kind of got for well done for doing that during lockdown as well. So that's just to Gillian's point there, that this is, you know, it's a real meaty, tangible qualification that's fully accredited that you get at the end of the day from Trinity College. So you know, this is a credible thing. It feeds a little bit into the application process, and just to reiterate that again, there are 8 to 10 at least pieces of documentation that you do need to get together, and some of that is outside your control in terms of references. And certainly if you're getting even transcripts from some of the universities and colleges in the past, that can be a little slower now during because of COVID as well. So just to reiterate the point there, don't leave it to the last minute, because you will run out of time. It's not so much that it's hard, but it's just a little slow.
Great, thanks Shane. And it's great to hear, I suppose, two of the things there, Jill, the peer-to-peer learning coming out from the students' perspective, because it's one of, you know, the core things that we love to develop or whatever, like through the courses, and then the real tangible impact, if you like, Shane, where you're talking about, you know, skills that you learned. I'm just thinking the pitching skills, and once people have been through that, you know, the difference it makes then when they're actually faced with, you know, the situation of going out and doing a pitch. So it's great to hear like the impact out in the real world. So thanks for sharing that. Shane. So I'm going to open up the floor there. If anybody has any questions popping in the chat, there's 1 or 2 coming in that we'll take now. But if anybody has any questions at all, either from the course perspective or the application or anything in between, absolutely let us know. Jane, could you tell us just where the students can find the timetable and the balance of the mix of online and in-person engagement?
Yeah. So you will find the timetable on our course page on the Tangent website. Now, it can be a little hard to find. If you go down to the heading called course dates and locations, it says you can access the timetable here, and that's a hyperlink, so it will take you in. But there's 3 modules. Module 1 is in person, and the course starts on the 4th of February. So it's 2 to 5 p.m. on Friday, 9:30 to 4:30 on Saturday, and that's for the first 6 weeks in person. And then after that, it moves to 2 evenings a week, which is Wednesdays and Thursdays from 6 to 8 p.m. up until the 16th of June. So about 18 weeks in total. First module in person, second and third module online. And yeah, you can get that timetable on the web page. But again, contact me on springboard@tcd.ie and I can email it to you if necessary.
Great, and we'll actually get a link there and pop that into the chat before we go as well. We've got a question in there from Gemma. Is a college certificate okay instead of a transcript? Yes, it is. So we just need, I suppose, evidence of your level 8 or the highest level of qualification that you have that you're applying with. So yes, a college transcript is fine, or the parchment or a certificate from the college. That's perfect. Yes. If you have any other questions there, pop them in. Jill, somebody here is asking about the online environment, I guess, which I was going to say it might be new to some people. We've all been online in some guys, I guess, over the last year and a half, but I suppose it's a little bit different in that we use the virtual learning environment. So do you want to just talk a little bit about that? And if anybody has further questions on those, let me know.
Sure, absolutely. So in Trinity, we use a learning management system, or an LMS, called Blackboard. And that's used college-wide to do all college teaching. So you're here on Zoom, so you know the basics. Sometimes one of the most challenging things is just getting used to a new platform. So that can take a little bit of getting used to, but it's a case of, like anything else in life, just getting used to a new system. And there's huge amounts of supports available on the Trinity website and in various different online spaces. So with the online space, it's very similar really to what you're experiencing now. But the one thing that I would say is that we're about half an hour into the session now at this stage. You wouldn't hear this much talking from this side. You would have been engaged at this point. So like I said, it really is experiential learning, even in the online setting. So we get you as the students and the participants, we really get you involved as much as possible. So it's a very, very interactive setting. Just like with Zoom, Blackboard has breakout spaces, and it's a whole big online platform where you can store files and chat to each other. There's a variety of different functions available to it.
Thanks, Julia. I think it's safe to say that students will be taken out of the comfort zone. Are we happy to say that at the outset? Yes. Absolutely,
absolutely. But again, it comes back to this notion that it's a level 9 postgraduate course, and we would be doing you and ourselves a disservice if we weren't challenging you. So, it's a new platform, but it's widely used, and it just takes a little bit of time to get used to it.
Yeah, and we may introduce some other online tools as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So for some of the courses, Shane mentioned this earlier, we do have a really incredible, rich set of contributors and lecturers who get involved, each of whom are experts in their own domains. And various different people use different teaching tools, which we will, inform you of in advance where possible. We use some people might have used things like Miro, the whiteboard online platform, which has been hugely useful to us in the last few months as we've been trying to get to grips with a variety of different things. But there's things that we use a number of different platforms. And the idea is not that we expect you to become experts. What we're trying to do is, again, it comes back to that creative mindset, problem solving. How well are you able to adapt when new things come your way? You don't always have to get it right every time, but are you able to give it a go, give it a shot? And even better, if it didn't work, why didn't it work? How could I make this better? What would be, so it's about the mindset development, not about getting you to do everything perfectly all the time.
Right, so we're not given any guarantees that you'll be using a system that you've used already, like Zoom and Teams, but we'll introduce them as they come along. Yes. And yeah, we find them very useful. I'm going to just take a couple of questions there. They're coming in on the chat. Just to reiterate the dates, it's the 25th of November is the closing date. And somebody's asking, when will they hear? So once the program has closed for applicants, we then review and assess all the applications, and it can take some time depending on the number that we have in, and we'll guarantee that everybody will hear from us, both the successful and the unsuccessful applicants, no later than 4 weeks before the course start date. And that's just to give us time then to get you registered through the system and with the Trinity College system and up on Blackboard, as Jill has mentioned. So yes, it's normally about 4 weeks before the start date, earlier if we can, depending on what other courses we have coming up. If anybody has any other questions there, we'll pop them in the chat. Thank you, Hazel. So So we got some, oh yes, good questions here around the workload. So how many hours per week are expected? And I know, Jill, this will vary. It's a question we get asked all the time, and it will vary hugely. And again, Shane might have some input on this, but do you want to just talk through, I suppose, what students can expect on a weekly basis?
Yeah, it's a question that makes me slightly nervous because, as Rosemary said, it does vary from week to week. And if you reach a place where you're very comfortable with the content, the extramural content, like the extramural effort that you'll have to put in, arguably wouldn't actually be that much. But one of the biggest challenges that we find around these courses comes back to that idea that it's a very different type of learning that you're going to be doing. And you becoming comfortable with that is sometimes part of the most challenging thing, and maybe the part of the piece that takes up the most time. So the one thing I would say is that this is not a passive course. It's not something that you can switch on and watch EastEnders out of the corner of one eye and attend class with the other. There is direct participation expected during most of the classes. It is experiential learning. So a willingness and an eagerness to come to the table wanting to work is going to be absolutely vital. But in return, what we do offer is truly engaging teaching and a truly engaging learning experience. And like Shane said, the experience that you have with your peers, the chemistry that we see, the enthusiasm and the work that happens, in the group projects and in the individual projects. I think, and hopefully Shane will back me up in this, but people get very invested in this course because you start to see yourself developing as you do the course. You become stronger with certain skill sets, and that becomes a very, very rewarding experience. So this is why I'm a little slow to put a nominative number of hours on it. It will somewhat depend on what you're bringing to the table already. There will be some parts of the course that you're really, really comfortable with and that you're able to sort of take in your stride. And there's going to be other parts of the course that are really quite new to you and that will take that little bit more effort. But we're here to support that. We just ask that you're willing to put the effort in and go on the journey with us.
Super, thanks, Jill. I'm going to answer, I hope, a couple of questions here all together. So the course will be delivered in Dublin and then in 2 regions this time round, which is Wexford and Athlone. Somebody's asking about the class sizes. So the class will be between 20 and no more than 40. So again, that may vary per region, but there'll be approximately between 20 and 40 in the different classes. There's a question here that I'm not sure any of us can answer, and is it, will we actually be able to be in person? So unless we have Tony Hoolan here, I'm not quite sure. So at the moment, so the best answer I can give to this is, and Jill can back me up or contradict me, at the moment, the classes are scheduled as per the timetable, which is the way the course was designed to be, and obviously we're hoping that that will be the case. If something changes, and we've had to change, throughout obviously the last 18 months and the way we run our courses, yes, we will have a facility to bring the course online, and you'll be able to then use Blackboard or any of our other collaboration tools, to meet with your peers, obviously for class time, but also to engage in the project work and the assessment. So like all is not lost, and we may have to do that pivot as we've done before, but just at the moment, and I suppose it's based on government advice, although I believe there's news out today that I haven't got yet, but based obviously on what Trinity directs us to do as well. So at the moment it is planned to be delivered as it was designed, which is that blended learning that Jane was talking about, some of the modules in person and some of them online. So I hope that it probably doesn't answer your question, but I hope it gives you as up to date as we have. Another question is just around a diploma, not a certificate. It is a certificate. It's a postgraduate, so it's level 9 on the National Framework of Qualifications. It's a level 9 postgraduate certificate with 30 ECTS, so it's a 30 credit 3-module program. I hope that answers that question. So Jane, there's a question here, it probably best directed to you. How long must somebody be unemployed in order to qualify for the Springboard fully funded option?
Sure. So there's a couple of answers to that. If you are in receipt of any kind of social welfare payment, then you don't need to be unemployed any specific length of time. You just need to show us that you are currently in receipt of that payment. If you are not in receipt of any social welfare payment, and let's say you've been a homemaker or a carer for some time, then you need to be out of work for at least 9 out of the last 12 months. If that's the case for you, there's a form called the Homemaker Declaration Form. With the declaration form, it's available for download on springboardcourses.ie. You must sign that and have a commissioner of votes sign it, and that's what you would upload to the eligibility for funding section.
Thanks. And just when I'm taking the next question, I might ask my colleague Hazel there just to could you pop a link to the timetables into the chat as well, and then people will have direct access to it and you'll be able to see exactly when they're due to be in and when they're due to be off. Jane, I wonder, could you talk us through a couple of questions coming in just around the references? So maybe without giving you the specific questions, do you want to give us an overview of what those two, and it's specifically if somebody doesn't have an academic reference because they've been out of academia for a while?
Yeah, no, we understand that it might be some time, or maybe you haven't done an academic degree or qualification, or sometimes since you've done one. So in that case, 2 written references from anybody that you've worked with in any capacity that can ideally speak to why you'd be a suitable candidate for this course. I often get asked, who should I ask for references? Really anybody, but you should have worked with them in some capacity, even if it's a volunteer capacity, but they can speak to why you would be a suitable candidate for the course. If you have access to an academic reference, then one academic and one professional will work nicely as well. But they should be recent. They should recommend you for the course if you want your application to be as strong as it can possibly be.
Super, thanks, Jane. So we're just coming up to 15:15. I'm going to end it there. Just before we do, does anybody have any questions? And just for Shane particularly, we'll be here and you get hold of us at any time to answer questions. But just if anybody had any last question to Shane, we're very happy to take that. If not, thank you, Hazel. Hazel just popped the timetable in there, so you should have access to that. I'll be online for another couple of minutes. If anybody does have any last minute questions, I've also popped, you'll see a mobile number in there, which is Jane's number, direct line to Jane, our student recruitment officer. Jane will be able to answer any questions just on the application process and what you need. But if we've no other questions, just give everyone a moment there in case something we haven't thought of. While we're doing that, I'd like to really thank my panelists, Jill, Jane, particular thanks to Shane who's coming online to give us just the student perspective on the course.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
And as I said, we'll be online for another couple of minutes if anybody has any questions. And if not, we look forward to hearing from you, get in contact on the email, on the live chat, or on the phone. We're very happy to take your questions. Again, thank you so much for taking the time and making the time to be with us tonight. And we look forward to seeing some of you on the course in due course.
See you in class, everyone.
Thanks,
Looking forward to it. Thanks, guys.